What's up guys, Rui here and welcome to a new series that I'm trying to bring into the channel called the Mod Project. It's a fairly simple concept whereby I take old pieces that I own which I no longer wear or use due to it maybe I no longer like the color or just how it looks in general, and kind of give it a little bit of a makeover into something that I could see myself wearing. And for today's episode, I will be taking you all along the journey and showing you the entire process from start to finish on how I transformed arguably one of the most memed out sneaker over on the internet, the CDG Play Converse. But before we continue further into today's video, it would be very much appreciated if you could go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below if you are new to the channel or just haven't been subscribed yet, as it really does help the channel out a long way. Also, if you guys are feeling generous and want to help support the channel in a much bigger way, I do have a Patreon page whereby at its lowest tier, it is only $8 a month. And all of it will go into helping me to pick up new filming equipments so that I can continue to improve the qualities of the videos for you all, as well as helping to keep the lights on this channel. This series has been on the back of my mind for some time now, and I wanted to do a series like this as I find most times we tend to just get rid of a piece just because we deem it to not fit our current style anymore. While a lot of times all these pieces can be reincorporated back into our wardrobe just by customizing it. By doing so, this will help to extend the lifespan of your pieces, and this will not only be able to save you quite a bit financially, but also ensures it will not land up in a landfill anytime soon. As someone who does fashion related content over on the internet, besides showing you my recent pickups or just new brands that you should check out, I think it's also part of my responsibility to show that there are other ways or means to consume fashion that don't require you to go out and buy something new. Sometimes all it takes is to just look through your closet and see what can be repurposed. Now, this video would not be possible without the help of Xavier, who was very kind enough to help out with some of the sewing process. So major shout out to him for making all of this happen. I picked this pair up sometime around 2016 during my very streetwear hypebeast days, whereby it was all about what is the latest hype brand, and back then the CDG Play Converse was a relatively popular sneaker within the streetwear scene, and it was rather easy to cop a pair as well. Fast forward 6 years later, this sneaker definitely did not stand the test of time for me, and even over on the internet this is pretty much regarded as a meme sneaker by now, just because of how overplayed the whole heart logo is, or just the association it carries. However, I cannot deny that in terms of silhouette and colorway wise, this is actually a pretty great sneaker, and when it comes to my pair, it is honestly still in a very wearable condition, which sparked the idea of giving it a makeover instead of just going out and buying another pair of Converse. When coming up with the design concept, I pretty much try to reflect back towards my current personal style and see how I can reincorporate this sneaker back into my wardrobe. Therefore, from the very beginning, I knew that I wanted it to kind of reflect my interest in functional wear while still having a rather minimal design that I can use as my daily beaters. Overall, I think this pair managed to achieve the look that I was going for, and one of the biggest inspiration I took was the Fear of God Converse. Being still somewhat of a Jerry boy, I appreciate the very neutral and minimalist design of his pieces, and for a while I've been wanting to grab a pair myself, but I wasn't willing to pay the resale price. Hence, you do see a strong resemblance when it comes to the contrast tongue, and I think the pure cream sole of the CDG Play Converse gives it an even cleaner look than the actual pair. In fact, because of the pure cream sole, it also does carry some resemblance towards the Rick Owens Ramon. Finally, I wanted something that represents my interest in functional wear, and one of my favorite design details is the usage of moly webbings or tag systems found in a couple of acronym pieces such as the SP28TS or the P23T. Which is why I decided to use the same webbing system to cover up the heart logo. It's also where the main bulk of the design lies. The webbing is positioned in more of a diagonal position, allowing the corners to peek out a little bit, giving the overall silhouette of the sneaker a more unique and interesting design. In terms of all the things that I use for this project, it's really not much, as it's a fairly simple and straightforward DIY customization. Instead of going through the dyeing process, I decided to hand paint the canvas material instead. Reason being, I wanted to have a more hands-on control over the portions that I wanted to be painted, and the dyeing process just wouldn't allow me to do so. Therefore, first up we have is the fabric paint. I got this one with no particular reason, just for the fact that it is suitable for textile painting. So if anything, just make sure you get the right one that allows you to paint on canvas materials. Up next are brushes, and this is probably the tool that you want to ensure to get the right ones. Because I'm going to be hand painting the sneaker, I use two different brush sizes. One of them is a flat brush, and I chose the smaller size from the bunch as it will allow me more accuracy when painting. I also have a liner brush, which is a very tiny paintbrush that is great for painting around the eyelids or very tight area. Moving along, to cover up the heart logo, I tried using the same fabric paint to kind of mask it out, but the paint just wouldn't stick on it. And I personally would not recommend painting over it, as the surface texture has more of a shine as compared to the matte canvas material. Therefore, even if you are able to kind of paint over it, it's still going to look pretty obvious. Which is why it's better to just add a patch or another layer of fabric to cover the logo. I went with a strip of dual moly webbing here, but feel free to replace it with anything you like. Initially, I wanted to sew the webbing onto the sneaker itself, but I just don't have the right resources to do so, so I went for the easiest route possible, which is to just use fabric glue. Some additional tools you may want to consider are masking tapes or painter's tapes. Now, I personally did not use any, but it's great if you want to ensure you do not paint over some of the more narrow areas like the side corners. All in all, I would say the process is fairly straightforward. Just a little bit of prep work beforehand. Do ensure that the sneaker is properly washed and completely dry. During the process of painting, remove the laces first, and if you want to, start masking the areas that you don't want paint to get on. Moving into the painting process itself, I start by applying a drop of paint onto the brush itself and begin spreading it evenly on the canvas. I tackle the side corners first and slowly move towards the rest of the surface area. To ensure to get a clean and even coating, I have to emphasize, do not rush this process. It may take a while, so just turn on some chill lo-fi music and enjoy the process. As for the area around the eyelid or the more narrow places, I use the liner brush, which gives me much more better control in painting those tight areas. Once the first layer is completed, allow it to dry for a while before applying the second coating of paint. Ideally, I would say 2 to 3 coats will be sufficient. One of the most tricky parts in this entire process is getting the moly webbing to stick onto the sneaker, as the glue that I got works perfectly fine when it comes to bonding onto the canvas material. However, it's not doing a good job around the logo area, which is why I ended up spending quite a bit of time and having to add quite an amount of glue, resulting in pretty obvious glue marks. This next step is optional, but to help the paint to stay onto the sneaker better, I applied a good spray of water resistance coating so that when it does get wet, the color will hopefully not start to bleed out. Finally, once everything is done, the last step is to just lace up the sneaker. And with Converses, the great thing about it is that you can play around with the lacing system. I like to have my lacing wrap around the anchor area and just let the ends of the lacing hang loose. Alternatively, I can also lace it in a more traditional way, exposing more of that angular design of the webbing system. Now that you have seen the final result, let's put it on with a couple of outfits and see how it looks.
Drift away, think we moving at a different pace. I ain't tripping off of shit you say. I ain't changing how I live today. I'm only focused on chips today. Step on the gas and I win the race. I can see you in a different space. Think it's better you just hit the brakes. Pull up the brakes and I drift away, think we moving at a different pace. I ain't tripping off of shit you say. I ain't changing how I live today. I'm only focused on chips today. Step on the gas and I win the race. I can see you in a different space. Think it's better you just hit the brakes. Swerving, throw it down, Julius serving. Moving like I got a purpose. Making these beats and these verses. Put in the time, but it's worth it.
That is all I have for today's video, and do let me know down below if you guys are interested in seeing more of this type of content, as I do have a couple more interesting ideas planned for this series. It does take a little bit more time and effort when it comes to planning out these videos, but if it's being well received, this is something that I'm very interested in diving into. If you have enjoyed watching today's video, do consider to give it a thumbs up, and once again, if you guys are new to the channel or just haven't been subscribed yet, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button, as it really does help the channel out a long way. It's these little things that really does help to push the channel out to more people. Please do stay safe out there, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out.